Thank you for joining I Am Possible, which is India's first future tech meets sustainability podcast. And today I'm delighted and honored to have with me Mr. Denis Rothman, who is an AI author, developer, instructor, and a consultant. And he's the author of Transformers for Natural Language Processing, first and the second edition, Artificial Intelligence by Example, Hands-on Explainable AI, and AI in Industry 4.0 and marketing. I would like you to introduce yourself because you've been in this industry for a long time. So I would appreciate if you can share your brief introduction.
Yes, so I've been in artificial intelligence since 1982. I registered a patent. Well, I was in AI before that. So I registered a patent in 1982, an encoding patent. Then I registered another symbolic communication patent in 1986 and then I went to sold programs for what is now Airbus in the defense industry from the start, and to luxury companies like LVMH. So this went on for, let's say, 20 years like that. And I improved this algorithm. And a few years ago, we sold our everything we had to a corporation that's increasing the customer base. And since then, I've been writing programs, books, instructing AI, consulting. So basically, where does this all come from? I've always been interested in the way intelligence works, mechanism of nature, and how people interact, then how countries interact, how the supply chain interacts. So I became a supply chain expert. So in a nutshell, that's who I am.
Lovely, Dennis. I mean, thank you for sharing your journey. You said you started in 1982, so it's like 4 decades in the field of artificial intelligence. And you mentioned that through your journey, you made sure that you have created applications for enterprise, and even on the YouTube. When I went onto your YouTube channel, you were stressing on how it's important to make money. So
Yes,
there's
very important.
obviously we'll get into that, but I want to talk about the evolution of artificial intelligence, because 4 decades you personally have been invested in the AI space. How has artificial intelligence evolved? Because you said your quest or your search for maybe understanding intelligence itself was the reason you got into AI. Where does all this stand? What's the evolution of AI 40 years plus years?
The seminal center of the 20th century of artificial intelligence is Alan Turing. Alan Turing's paper, 1950 paper. In 1950, he wrote on machine intelligence. He wrote that paper and he predicted everything that would happen in decades and decades. So what I would say is, if you have a Turing machine, or you have a stochastic Turing machine, like a Churchill Turing stochastic machine, you can reproduce any algorithm that exists today except for two quantum mechanic algorithms. So I would say, I wouldn't speak in terms of evolution. I would speak in terms of progress. Now, where's the progress? The progress is in the machines. We have machines that are so powerful that we can do things we couldn't do before. And also we have software and libraries, and we have the internet where we can communicate. So when I need something, I can go get it, download it, and get it to work. So we communicate. So the two major things is progress of machines, and then the progress of communication. And then comes, I would say, the talent of people working at Google and people working in OpenAI and Microsoft, because we're always thinking about these big giants because we're looking at their CEOs, but we're not talking about the small teams that are researching and finding things, and they're working just like us. So I would say one of the big evolutions, if there is an evolution, is the recent way, not of the algorithms, but of the way of training artificial intelligence by using massive parallel computing. So, and it's become an art. It's become an art because, for example, Google has found ways to build domain-specific supercomputers where you don't use as many floating points. So it'll go faster and it's cheaper. So that's fantastic. And then they found ways to run everything in parallel, and then put your data in parallel, and then the layers, run all the layers at the same time, and then use sparse modeling. It's so it's innovation, it's progress. That is huge. That is huge progress. Is it evolution? That's another topic, because I don't think there is an evolution. I think there's a progress. There is no evolution, because it's artificial intelligence is limited by human intelligence, and human intelligence hasn't evolved in 20,000 years. I mean, we reached our genetic maximum, and the only thing that's increasing now is knowledge and tools, but our intelligence remains very, very limited. And that's for our intellectual. Now, our emotional intelligence is about that of a 12-year-old child, because there is no evolution in human emotions, that's not taught at school. So artificial intelligence has progressed, but not evolved. And the progress is tremendous. The evolution is weak because we're weak.
Is there a way that we could get to Turing machine? B, about the intelligence. Do you think, the methods such as, Elon Musk is kind of looking at maybe like augmenting our human brains with, a brain computer interface? Would that be a way to kind of get to human beings that, exceed its capacity of knowledge?
Elon Musk is a genius. I mean, but he's an industrial genius. And he is emotionally deficient, because he has he's an autist. So he has an emotional deficiency. So he's an industrial genius. I mean, to build something like Tesla, where he invented all kinds of ways of producing. He really worked in that factory, and he really worked in SpaceX, and he really invested. So he's an industrial genius. I would compare him to Thomas Edison in the United States. He's really an industrial genius, but he's an emotional dwarf. I mean, he has no idea what a human being is, emotions. He has no idea, and he says it. It doesn't take away his genius. It doesn't take away, and I'm using the word genius and I'm comparing him to Thomas Edison, but what he's saying there is pure stupidity, because we do not need to enhance our knowledge, or we don't need to. What we need to do is improve our emotional intelligence. There are people like Daniel Goleman. You can find him, you can find many books about emotional intelligence. Daniel Goleman. Human beings need to increase their emotional intelligence, not their technical or we don't need to. It's not necessary. To stop a war, you don't need to have a super intelligence. You need emotions. You need to say, well, hold it a minute. And this goes for all these conflicts that are going around the world now. There are things going on in the northwest of India. There are things going on in the northeast of India. There are things going on in Eastern Europe, the Middle East, Africa. I'm not going to get into any of them. I'm just going to build a model saying that if human beings could sit down and be emotionally intelligent and say, you know what, why don't we share that territory? Why do we want to fight for it? I mean, that's pure stupidity. It's what we would do 50,000 years ago when we were fighting with bows and arrows and killing. We don't need to do that anymore. Do you realize that we're 9-year-olds or 12-year-old emotional level fighting with modern weapons? So we do not need more of this. We need more emotional intelligence where conflicting parties can sit down and say, let's share what we have, and let's find a way to work on getting all these weapons out of the way, because obviously we're seeing one of the last wars, because after that, there's going to be so many missiles and super intelligent weapons that will, I've seen lasers. I'm not going to say where, but lasers are now on the battlefield. There are laser weapons being tested too. So most of humanity is mentally disturbed, because why would you kill someone else? Why would you say, I'm going to take your territory? Why not share the territory? So there's a mental disease that needs to be cured. But since we're so egocentric, we think we're super intelligent, we're superior, and we don't need to be changed. So artificial intelligence is a tool, just like a pocket calculator. So you take your pocket calculator, make a lot of calculations, but you have to develop your emotional intelligence.
Dennis, I'm completely with you on every little things you said, from pointing out to India and the things that they are doing within our country, outside our country. And I think it's not just India, it's nations,
every country,
and organizations, because of a capitalism structure or a profit at any cost businesses, and or teachings that we are spreading to our young ones that, oh, you become a billionaire, you become a Elon Musk. Yes, I think we forgotten, the emotional quotient, that how, being emotionally intelligent could create a better planet. Yes, I think we definitely need to get that before we get into AI. We definitely need to possibly talk a little bit more about that how do we get that, because the world that we have created is so very twisted with capitalism, with industry, and so many, all of these things. And yes, I think we are conflicted, and we are caught in a situation where I don't think anybody has got an answer on how we create a world that is better, which is beneficial, open, equal, decentralized. Is there I know this is like a too broad philosophical statement. Is there something that you have in mind on how do we get over there?
We're not going to get there, because we're animals. It's like you go get a tiger, a Bengali tiger, and you take the tiger, a small tiger, and you take him to your house, and you say, little tiger, you're an animal like me. I'm going to teach you emotional intelligence, and I'm going to tell you to be a vegetarian. So when you are 2 or 3 years old, you'll be eating salad, but I don't want you to kill anymore. You know that's very bad. And the tiger is going to say, are you crazy? I've been like that longer than human beings have existed. We just eat each other. I'm going to eat you. And then maybe 2 or 3 years after, he'll eat you. We are animals. We are hardwired. So unless we change genetically, we're going to stay the way we are. So the only way to stop what's going on is fear. The fear that our planet is going to burn down, that has propulsed the industry of electric. Now we're talking electric, green. It's fear. We just fear that the temperature goes up. Like in India, you had like 50 degrees in Rajasthan. And in France, last week, we had record temperatures where it was so hot for us that we had trouble breathing. We had problems breathing. We didn't feel right. And if you are in a big city with pollution, so I think fear will change it. Now, there's something positive about all this. We have to manage our violence, because we are violent. We just have to learn how to manage it. And that can be done with education. And it's not that bad either, because if you look at the wars, no one's throwing a nuclear bomb at anyone right now. There's so much nuclear energy on this planet and weapons, we could blow up the planet, but no one's using them. So we're not that crazy. We're just saying, I'm going to kill a lot of people, but I'm not going to throw a bomb because that bomb will come back to me. So I think we're just a little more emotionally intelligent that we're emotionally dumb. So it keeps us afloat. So there'll be electric cars. One day, India will go from coal to something else. Germany is using a lot of coal. They'll go to something else. It will evolve slowly. The only thing I think, in fact, ecology is evolving very slowly, but it is. And wars, we're not in a world war now. Everyone is afraid of that. I don't think we'll go to a world war. So that's not so bad. But is it fast enough before climate change? That's the only question. We are progressing. Will it go fast enough? We might just go fast enough because we've always managed to survive a bit. We could even recreate new plants. We can create new animals. We can get genetic things and create the animals that don't exist, or fish, or have plants that grow faster, or we can do a lot of things. So I think we're a little better than we're bad. And that's enough to survive.
Yeah, so you know what? I remain optimistic about human race because I think that's the only thing which makes this planet exciting. It gives us the reason to, to communicate and hope for a better tomorrow, and hope that the next offsprings will be a little bit wiser and will be a little bit more emotionally intelligent than us. And I'm hopeful because somehow, because like you mentioned, we are exploring to a point where we understanding who we are, and we are able to tinker with the tool that we've been given and possibly maybe create life itself. You mentioned you could genetically create new fruits.
Don't play God. Don't play God.
No. But no, I'm saying
I'm not talking about creating human beings. I'm talking about agriculture and things like that. Now, you have one person that I admire a lot is Rai Shankar, your foreign minister. And he wrote a book called The Indian Way. And everyone's looking around the future. Everyone should read that book. He should have a Nobel Peace Prize, because if you go to Rai Shankar right now and you listen to him speak, India has nuclear weapons and India is not using them. India has a very strong army. It's not using it that much. It's just using it to defend the borders. And Rai Shankar is saying, he is in the future. What you have to realize is that Rai Shankar is the future. He's in the future because the country is remaining neutral. It's not getting involved. It's working with the United States, with Canada, with Russia, with Ukraine, with Australia. It's trying to work with China. And every time you speak about a problem, you can see that he's emotionally extremely intelligent. He is one of the most emotionally intelligent people governing in the world, because he says, yes, there's a problem with Pakistan. We have things to talk about, and we need to find solutions. There are problems with China. He's not there saying we need to fight them and I'm going to send more bombs and tanks. No, he's intelligent. So in fact, there are people today that are already preparing the future. And Rai Shankar is one, because India is a major player in the world. People don't realize how much production comes from India. So it's a major player. If that player changed and became aggressive, the whole world would change. It would be the same as with China. People would notice. But Indians are under control because you have this government that is remaining neutral. It's not getting into fights. And it refuses. Up to now, it succeeded in not getting. So you do have people with emotional intelligence. In the United States, you have a lot of people in universities that speak the way Rai Shankar do. They just don't get to the media yet. And you have the same in China. In every country in the world, you will find people that are already there. They're saying the world is too complex for tensions. There are too many parameters. Okay, so we need to cooperate because we can't solve the problems. There are problems we can't solve. So we need to cooperate. Your government, Rai Shankar, is in that direction. And I think I've heard your prime minister pretty strongly say that in a few conferences. So India is this kind of country that's neutral. You have Switzerland that's been neutral up to now. You have many countries that are like that. So I think that since Asia is building up very quickly, I don't know. For the moment, Asia is very quiet in terms of wars. China speaks a lot, but attacks no one. I've never seen I've never seen 200,000 Chinese soldiers go somewhere since I don't know when. Since I don't know. I've never seen them do that. So for the moment, they're just showing they're strong, so you don't go bother them. But they're not attacking anyone. They're trying to do a digital Silk Road and get business rolling all over the place. Japan is not fighting anyone. So I think Asia might be a place where, you know, there'll be something different coming up if Asia can remain neutral the way it is today. And the West maybe will calm down these 1,000-year-old ways of doing things, because that's the way the West has been doing with power and innovation. So I'm not that pessimistic. I think it'll be a little better than it's bad.
There's some nice things happening over here in India. You know, the economy is emerging. So yeah, cool things happening over here. I would like to get into your book, you know, because you've written a few books, and why don't we start with the book, The Transformers for Natural Language Processing? Maybe before you get into that, you could possibly explain what are transformers and how do they work, and then maybe you can get into the book.
Yeah, so that's it's the same topic, in fact. The same topic, because what artificial intelligence was facing before transformers was too many parameters. We can see that the world is too complex. And we can see that if you want to work on many languages, you can't write rules for any. I'm going to translate this sentence, that sentence. We'd be talking about billions and billions and billions of rules we would have to write. So at one point at Google, there was this small team saying, you know, our programs they're not so good. We have these recurrent neural networks that look at each word in a sentence, and then they go back and they try to remember how the structure of the sentence, like you say, the cat is sleeping. So I'd say, the cat goes with the, sleeping with cat. But it was becoming very, very difficult because the longer the sentence and all these languages, so it's too complex. And the number of messages on social media. So they said, first we have a machine limit. Supercomputers are very expensive. So why don't we do something very simple? So that's why I told you transformers are the most powerful models in the world today, and the simplest mathematically. They say, why don't we take a matrix, and in that matrix, let's suppose it's like an Excel sheet, and we'll put one word on each line, and then we'll put a lot of numbers in there to make it a very complex vector. So it's not just one dimension. It's something very complex, but it's in a simple matrix. So now that we have that matrix, we can put weights with them to train those numbers. So it's basically like we learn in math, y equals x times something, and you get something. So there you get weights. So they say, then why don't we create another matrix that's exactly the same as this one? And why don't we create a third one that's the same? And why don't we stop there? They say, and people are saying, are you crazy? What are you going to do with 3 things that we can learn in high school? What we're going to do is we're going to multiply the first matrix by the second one. And what's going to happen? Well, all the words will be compared to each other in pairs. All these words, we'll see how they fit together, this word with that word, but we don't care about the sequence or anything anymore. So it's so simple that we can get it to work in parallel. And then when we've done that multiplication, let's divide it by something to scale it, to make it even, to make it nice. And then we'll multiply it by that third matrix that we'll train also. And that's what we were finished. I just described transformers. It's over. That is the core of the intent, because we need it to be that simple. That way we can break these matrices into pieces. So you take this matrix where I told you had a lot of numbers, and you can divide them by all the segments you want, and you create heads, and you put them on different processors. And in fact, you can put them on 10,000 processors. So, and you can have all these layers, and you can put these layers in parallel. So now they invented, a bit like Elon Musk invented his fantastic, his genius invented this industrial way of producing cars and rockets and bringing them back to Earth. That is pure genius. Well, this small team of 10 people, one of which did not finish college and was one of the main writers of the article, they said, let's try it, but they had no idea it would work. And at first it didn't work. They said, because we don't have the sequence anymore. So how we're we don't know the order of the words anymore, because we just found the weights. We found this word go. So they added another dimension with some positional encoding of the word. And that is the core of transformers, is a new way to train, because you can do a lot of parallel processing. So it's so powerful that you can now train 1 trillion parameters in a very simple way, because you're using domain-specific supercomputers that don't need floating points at all times. You can balance your loads. Everything is in engineering. It's an engineering system. Now, what happens with that? That's where it becomes interesting, because there are so many parameters and so many combinations that no one knows. I'm talking about the big ones, like OpenAI GPT-3. No one knows what it's going to do, because all it's doing is just learning. It's learning and it's learning and it's learning and it's learning. And it is not learning with masked things. It's just learning how to predict. It's auto-regressive. It looks at what's there and it predicts what's going to happen. Looks at what's there. So when they began training, they say, what can it do? So let's try this, let's try that. And then we find emergence. It means that it will do things that no one knew about, hundreds of tasks. So since it's based on the beginning of the sentence, if I say, oh, this blue shirt fits me well, I would like to, and then it will go into predictions. What's the most likely sequence? What would I like to do if I like this shirt? Buy it, wear it. So I can buy it, I can wear it since I like it, or I can offer it to someone. So I have these 3 probabilities in there, and then it will go look at the context, because it has so many parameters. It can go look at what's going on before, after, and it'll say, I like this blue shirt. Since I'm in a shop, I'm going to buy it. And maybe I can buy it to offer it to someone. So it's extremely, it's emergence. And that emergence is leading now to models that you train that will be able to do thousands of tasks just by emerging. And then you have their homogenization. It means it can also do computer vision, because it can treat images like words. You can say, well, this patches an image and put them together. So we're talking about, I would say, that is the biggest progress I've seen in artificial intelligence in 30 years, because the emergence part, the talent of training them by putting them all these processors, it's increasing all the time. And the most recent one is it's so smart, because you had OpenAI was just a decoder, and you had BERT was just decoding messages and auto-regressive. But then you had BERT, which was an encoder and an auto-encoder, where you just take a word out, like, I would like to buy this shirt. And then that's an auto-encoder trying to find the word. So now Google said, why are we opposing these 2 systems? Why don't we create a system in which the encoder will do this masking job, this auto-encoder thing, and find the word, and the other stack will go do this auto-regressive, And then why don't we put all our training intelligence there with limited floating points and train them and split them and do sparse modeling, not use everything at the same time? That is where the talent is. It's a technical progress. So my book simply describes that. It explains in chapter 1 this emergence I just talked about and how to homogenize things. And these are foundation models. Then I go in chapter 2, I speak about the model, how it's built, and then how to use it for summarization, for anything you want, to create question answers, to analyze news, to use for computer vision. After it's more or less applications, but at the same time, I'm keeping Industry 4.0 in my sights to tell developers, be careful, because we're not going to need you anymore that much. We're going to need you to design, because who's going to write that sequence? Who's going to write the sequence? That's the problem. Who's going to create that first sequence that will generate it? So that's called prompt engineering. If you don't know how to speak to it, it won't give you the answer. So that's the book. That's the book. It's taking people to a new generation of artificial intelligence, which is very machine orientated, and it's a huge progress. That's for sure. It's mind blowing.
Dennis, thank you for sharing, talking about transformers plus your book. You also mentioned emergence. Maybe intelligence itself is emergent, and talk to us a little bit more about these transformer-based models, like your GPT-3 and extra. What are the applications at this point in time? Even Meta AI, I think, recently released their OPT 175B and I think that's the first platform which has opened it for public researchers. What are the applications that you are most excited for of these transformer-based NLPs?
Now, I'm mostly a supply chain expert. That's how I earn my living all my life, as I told you early, is optimizing. Now, this opens interesting doors, not exciting doors. Interesting is machine to machine communication. Let me give you an example. You take GPT-3, and there's a part where it has to embed the words. Like I told you, my first patent was to transform words into numbers. That you have to do that because we're calculating numbers. We're not calculating words. So it's very interesting because with GPT-3, with a normal encoding thing, you can have, let's say in the early days, we had 5 dimensions. I could say one dimension. If we translate it into normal language, I would say this shirt can be blue. It can be a bit white. It can be a nice collar, or it can be a soft collar. It can have sleeves, not sleeves. If we translate that into math to represent a vector in space, we're not getting very far with that. So it's not that precise, especially since I can have billions and billions of messages. Now, you go to GPT-3, and what do you think, how many dimensions do you think we can use? 12,288. So now you have one word with 2,288 dimensions. I mean, that is precision. That is laser precision. Now, if you go back to my supply chain and I go to a warehouse and I say, why don't I use emergence? And why don't I deviate that to supply chains? And I'm going to take the whole status of a warehouse. If what's late, what was early, these products, the properties of the products. And let me throw this into this embedding engine, just embed it. I'll just use it to embed. I'm not going to use it to predict. I just want to embed. And now I represent that in a vector space. I'm going to see very precise things come together, that these deliveries of these products create more problems than these and these just by embedding. So I can take that embedding, which is 12,288 dimensions, and what can I do? I can feed it back into classical machine learning. Because if you go to scikit-learn, I can put it into a clustering algorithm, and it can feed 12,288 dimensions in this simple clustering, and you have these fantastic clusters where you see what's going on in your warehouse. So that is very interesting. Okay, it's fantastic in terms of technical progress. So there are many useful things to do. So the applications of transformers today are used. Let's find fake news. Let's not find fake news. Let's find people are speaking bad on social media. Let's summarize internet things. Let's summarize. No, but there is research done in healthcare. People are working on finding cures for diseases with artificial intelligence. So there are many useful applications. There are many dangerous ones because now they're being used for weapons. You now have people are unaware of this, but you now have tanks that can that are I-40. They can communicate between each other, and they can do things automatically. So it goes back to our conversation: good, bad, or explore.
Right, yeah. So yes, there's crazy things happening, Dennis. I mean, so I have the privilege of conversing with a lot of these folks who are at the forefront of cutting edge of technologies, and right from genetic technologies to leveraging AI and things like that. So there are crazy things happening. I was not saying that not to play God, but I think we are understanding not just physics itself, but the entire human biology. And we are able to tinker around with it and create things, and like you said, explore. So there are a team of people who are exploring it in a way. We're not playing God, because I am completely unreligious. I don't even know who God is, because I mean that is something which has just been passed on to me by my folks and the society. So I believe in technology, I believe in logic, I believe in science, and I believe that there is like you said, exploration. I believe in the quest and nurturing and nudging and empowering and enabling those creative minds who believe that tomorrow could be better than today if we explore the tool of technology. I don't really know what transhumanism is or how it could be. Or you're speaking about the metaverse. I think the virtual reality. I think through history, I think technology is the only tool which has augmented mankind and helped us. You mentioned about that, how in a city, we can access technology, but you go inside the rural areas and they do not understand. But yes, that is the problem. What if we could empower them? What if we could give them internet? What if we could give them knowledge? The things that they could build over it. I'm excited for that. And yes, I wish for a better world. And I wish that there is this technology as a tool is more accessible, is more equitable. That's the reason I have these conversations, so that more people can know about what's the cutting edge in technology. Talking about these transformers doing things which we don't really understand. Does that bother you? Because you are the one who's written hands-on explainable AI. There's black box AI and explainable AI, and there's transformers doing crazy things. So maybe talk about that, and plus your book, Hands-on Explainable AI.
So explainable AI is very easy, in fact, because my book on explainable AI, I focus on model agnostic methods, where I don't care about the algorithm. It can be any algorithm. It can be anything you're saying. It doesn't even have to be software. You just take the input, then you take the output, and then you change things in the input to see what happens to the output. That is model agnostic analysis. So it can be artificial intelligence. It could be our conversation. It could be the questions you're asking. You're asking a question, the way I answer, then you change your question, I answer in a different way. And explainable AI will say, it's because he said that it went. So it's model agnostic. You go from input to output. Like I say, the car is nice. Sentiment analysis, positive. The car is nice, but it's a bit expensive. Neutral sentiment analysis. Now you go back and you say, what if I take expensive out? It'll say it's positive. What if I put expensive back in? Then it's neutral. What do I say? It looks nice, it's expensive, but it breaks down often. Now I go to negative. So all you do is take things out identify the main factors that are in your input and influence the output. You do not need to know what's going on inside. That is the biggest part. Now, if you want to explain a model, that is for developers. That is for other people. Then you write other algorithms that you can apply the same ones, in fact, to what's going on at each layer. At each layer, it's doing this, it's doing that, it's doing this, it's doing that. So you don't really need to go into the algorithms. You can go break them into little pieces and look. So all you do is look at the input and then the output, and then find what's going on. It's like when maybe you're cooking, someone's cooking a cake. This is a bit, I'll put more flour, I'll put some more sugar. I'll taste it. There's not enough sugar. Okay, it's the same thing. That is explainable AI.
When it comes to religion, possibly, I believe that, more than these, the God that what we have created, I think spiritualism is the way to go. I think that's the way we could get to a place where we are more emotionally intelligent rather than rather than having an idol and saying that is God and having false beliefs. I think spiritualism and emotional.
Yeah, but you know where you live?
Yeah.
You live in India, right?
Yeah, but then you don't really need
You're living in one of the greatest countries in the history of humanity in terms of spiritual life, because you have Hinduism, you have Buddhism, you also have Christianism, you have the Muslim religion, you have the Rig Vedas that go back to thousands of years, you have the Upanishads. You have the Brahmas that brought Sanskrit from thousands of years to today. You're sitting on a gold mine of spiritual possibilities, and you have this great thinker, Vivekananda. I don't know if you know him, Vivekananda.
Yes.
Screen froze a bit. So.
Oh, am I frozen?
Vivekananda.
Yes.
So yeah. So Vivekananda wrote on this, and he said, if someone is really honest with himself and he's really truthful, he can go into any religion and he will reach the same goal. And he tried all of them. He tried Muslim, Hinduism, Buddhism, Christian. He said they all lead to this. If you do it right and you don't get involved in low-level tensions, you'll reach the same place. And I think that deeper spiritual values are excellent for our emotional intelligence. And that is, I would say, if we were looking at a body today, I would say that our brain is huge, like an elephant. Our body is tiny like a mouse, and our heart is microscopic. So we're not, the world is not developing the right things enough. There should be more spiritual life, more emotional communication. And even an atheist, for me, can be spiritual, because atheists very often like to speak about human values and things like.
So, I mean, in the interest of time, my last question to you, because you mentioned about intelligent and consciousness, I would like to ask you this question. What are your thoughts on artificial general intelligence? And there is the OpenAI chief scientific officer, Ilya, had tweeted that these large neural networks are possibly conscious, and that there was a huge debate which opened up on the Twitter. Would love to hear your views on that.
What the tweet you're talking about is something interesting, because if we looked into the past, there are many geniuses in the past. But if you noticed, all these geniuses get carried away. If you go into detail, even Thomas Edison got carried off. Tesla was, in fact, the person who invented electricity. AC/DC was invented by Tesla, but he finished half insane. So what we have to know is geniuses, they're nice people. They're talented. They're interesting, but they're not interesting for every topic they talk about. They just know their specialized topic. They're specialized. So there's Mozart could speak about music. I don't think he could be a general in a war, or I don't think Napoleon could write music. So, but we're talking about geniuses in different ways. So the thing is, a genius at one time, he just goes up into his mind, and sometimes it's like a volcano. He thinks, I know everything. And so this man at OpenAI GPT-3, this person who tweeted, fine. I mean, OpenAI is doing a lot of good work. GPT-3 does a lot of good work, and he just got carried away, like Elon Musk, who's an industrial, gets carried away with transhumanism. It's the end of the world. We're going to live on Mars. Sure, we're going to take 1.4 billion Indians and Chinese, 3 billion people and go to Mars. That way to solve the problem. I solved the problem. We're not live on Mars, so we can go destroy Mars. So I think that we just need critical thinking, that each human being says, oh, OpenAI is nice, GPT-3, and wow, it is emergent. Oh, the CEO, well, he just got carried away. Maybe he ate a lot, or he drank some French wine before tweeting, and they just get carried away. But it's nonsense. Why wouldn't they brag? If we were working at OpenAI and we were nearly billionaires, well, we'd say, hey, you know what? I'm going to tell you what the future of humanity is. Why not? They're just carried away like actors. They act, they earn a lot of money, and all of a sudden they speak about everything on the radio, and they know everything about everything because they're famous. Since they're famous, they know everything. But I don't mind. I say it's a nice actor. I liked his movie. Everything he's saying is stupidity, but I still like his movie. So we just have to separate the talent of the CEO, which is enormous talent, from the nonsense he's saying, like everyone. I say nonsense all the time. When I speak to my children or even my grandchildren now, or my wife, she says, you know what? Everything you just said is nonsense. And I say, oh, yeah, that could be. Do you have children?
Yes, I have a boy.
How many times have your children told you you don't understand anything? Do this. You don't understand. And then they begin to cry and you say, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Because we're just human beings. We make mistakes all the time. So this CEO is a nice person. He's doing a great job. OpenAI is really a huge success because it shows you the applications. But sometimes he just gets carried away, but let him get carried away. Why not? We all get carried away.
Thank you, Dennis. Really appreciate you taking time and being part of the podcast. I have a very neutral view because I believe that when we like you said, when you have explorers, when you have crazy mind, I feel that everything is possible. That's the reason I call this podcast I Am Possible, because I believe the Wright brothers, when they were trying to create the first flying machine, people said ridiculous thing, that's not possible. But look at where we are. So I'm not saying that we can get to an AGI machine. I'm not even slightly saying that GPT-3 is slightly conscious, or maybe GPT-11 could get conscious, but I don't even know about that because
it's impossible. It's impossible.
Right?
Consciousness cannot come. Okay. If you believe that, then you can believe that your beach is going to, a rock is going to talk to you. Right. Do you have a pocket calculator, or did you have one?
That was long time back.
Yeah, but it'll never become intelligent. And you imagine the disaster if a machine realized what it is? It's Frankenstein. What is impossible is what Gandhi did. What is impossible is what Martin Luther King did. He marched on Washington with 1 million people, and he got to the point where Barack Obama could be elected decades after. So these are the people I admire, like Rai Shankar in India. And progress is not evolution. Technical progress is technical progress. Evolution can only be in the human being. That's my message to you. And to what's impossible, if you believe in the impossible, you have to believe in the emotional and spiritual evolution of mankind. Progress is technical. Evolution is in man. is in women, or whatever people want to be, half man, half women. I don't care. Transgender. I don't even care who they are, as long as they have emotional intelligence and they're ready to communicate and cooperate with other people. I don't care what they are, what color. I don't care. So I think that this we've talked. You can sum it up by saying evolution will be in humanity. That's the impossible to, with the help of technological progress. But technical progress will never create human evolution. That's impossible. These are two different things. It's like if your pocket calculator would change you.
Right.
So people can dream about it, but you can't do it because there is something going on around us that is not in machines, and we feel it. And the best image I can see, because in my family, I'm both American and French, and everyone fought in the war. My father fought in wars. My grandfather fought in wars. And it comes down to these stories is once you're facing death, you're saying, if there's someone up there, please help me. Because we're so strong in social media. But if you're in a hospital and
it's all gone. Yeah.
Someone is up there, please help me. But if we don't believe it, why are we asking that question?
Yeah.
And I can tell you that 100% of the population thinks that when there's a life and death situation, if there's something, please help me. Because we look so strong, but we're extremely weak. So I would capitalize on thinking there's something out there. There's something, it's been described for millions of years. We don't know what it is. We tried to put words, but there's something out there that we should go look at. And if we all look in this direction, we'll be better. We'll be looking up and not against each other all the time.
What a profound note to end on, Dennis. Yes, maybe I will reconsider whatever I said and possibly look into that direction. But lovely talking to you, Dennis. Really appreciate you taking time and being part of the podcast. And to my listeners, if you like what you see in here, then please press the subscribe button. Until next time, see you guys. Bye-bye. Thank you, Dennis. Really appreciate it.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Dennis.